report, and right now it's showing the economy is in a dire condition.
Today, the Federal Reserve Chairman is going to meet with members of Congress to try to talk about how to stop the spiral.
Yeah, I mean, dare we say we are in, oh, do I dare use the R word, recession here, Senator?
The American economy is clearly in bad shape. But how are people affected here at MSJ, where the average home costs over $1 million? The answer to that question is, it starts with the teachers.
You should have a blank piece of paper so you can write down everybody else's term, definition, and example.
Mr. Bogman is in his third year teaching here at MSJ, and he teaches freshman English. This past March, he received a pink slip, meaning he may or may not be back here to teach in September.
I'm a temporary teacher that is currently employed, but as of June, I will be unemployed. So all of the temporary teachers in the state of California have pretty much received a notice that their employment is ending as of June. And some of those teachers will be hired back again in the fall, and others presumably will not. Until they actually send us an offer of employment, we're kind of in limbo. Well, anytime you get a pink slip, you're a little bit demoralized because the work that you've been putting a lot of time and effort into doesn't seem to be appreciated, and you're being told, you know, thanks but no thanks. With teaching, it's a little bit different. The pressures on the state to reduce the state budget ends up resulting in teachers getting pink slips that have absolutely nothing to do with their job performance. And so as a teacher, you try to, you know, not let that get you down. But it is demoralizing.
Let's take a step back and try to examine why our country is in a recession today.
As most experts agree, our economy is in a recession.
The recession of today has turned into one of the biggest economic crises since the Great Depression itself. People across the globe have proposed several reasons for why this recession might have occurred, but the exact reasons are still up for debate. Our recession, which began in 2001, was triggered by several factors including the dot-com bubble burst, but the idea of irrational exuberance, or reckless spending in short, also played a key role. As the economy started to see an increase in stability for the first time in 5 years in 2004, banks started to take advantage. Since federal interest rates were extremely low, people began buying at very high rates in order to make massive profits.
We asked history and economics teacher Miss Benton what she thinks is the cause of the recession.
So there's like a variety of different factors. But the one that I think most people are tying to right now is poor lending practices by banks. So they basically gave too much money to people who couldn't pay it back. And now you have a situation where housing prices go down and people are foreclosing on their mortgages, which means that the banks can't get their money back.
Banks started lending money at a careless rate. Anyone was qualified to receive money from the bank regardless of their credit. During 2004, housing prices rose dramatically. Banks began giving loans relying on their customers' houses as insurance. Slowly, the people who borrowed money started to have trouble paying back their loans. Massive amounts of homes began being foreclosed or sold. All of a sudden, there were hundreds of thousands of houses on the housing market being sold or foreclosed, causing the prices of houses to drop dramatically. The banks then had to auction off these houses, costing them a great deal of money.
Along with problems in real estate, the devaluation of the dollar solidified the recession. The effects were also evident as the prices of goods increased all across the board, As demand for oil decreased, problems began to ripple down the system. Not only were oil companies out of work, but every other business that was related to oil, including car companies like Ford and General Motors, were all affected. Even more jobs were lost as these companies also tanked. As people began seeing that the economy was down, they were hesitant to spend money. When businesses began shutting down, a snowball effect overtook the country as more and more companies went bankrupt. Not only was there a shortage of money, but now hundreds of thousands of people were without jobs. Unemployment was declining faster than ever.
In February 2008, Congress passed a $168 billion package of tax cuts and rebates as signs of economic depression appeared. Later in the year, after Wall Street crumbled and economic activity contracted sharply, Democrats called for a $787 billion stimulus, and after his election as president, Barack Obama declared his priority to be a recovery package that will save at least 3 million jobs over the next 2 years.
President Obama has given $41 billion for local school districts through state funding. By giving $79 billion to states in preventing educational cutbacks, President Obama hopes to cut down in the rising numbers of school teachers and professors that are being laid off. In addition to this, $15.6 billion have been dealt to broaden the federal Pell Grant program, which gives need-based grants to fund education. Lastly, $6 billion are to be given to modernize higher education programs. This could mean better facilities, newer books, and updated softwares in our computers. As we have seen throughout history, building projects with blue-collar jobs have always been a way of promoting economic growth. These types of projects increase the number of jobs and get more people employed. The stimulus package includes $30 billion for highways. An example of this project can be seen in the works of our Highway 880. Although these projects cost millions of dollars, they are needed to improve our current economic status. There will also be $31 billion to modernize federal buildings and other public infrastructure, $19 billion for clean water, flood control, and other environmental investments, $10 billion to improve public transit and rail infrastructure. Although infrastructure is a great way to help the economy in the long term, it is always a slow process as many of these projects take a while to achieve.
The stimulus package also addresses healthcare and energy. A total of $35 billion will be spent for healthcare and medical research. $32 billion will be sent to transform the U.S. energy grid to make it more efficient. Not only that, but $16 billion will be used to repair public housing and make it more energy efficient.
Whether or not you agree with the premise of the economic stimulus package, it is no doubt an active effort by our government to speed up the economy's recovery. Meanwhile, Ms. Benton has her own advice.
I think it's a cycle, and cycles have to work their way out. And the only thing you can do is not about preventing the cycle from happening. You can't stop summer from coming. You can't stop spring from coming. But what you can do is to prepare. Buy clothes to prepare for winter. Or in the case of investing, save money for the possibility of a recession. So that's what I think people should sort of have that kind of mentality. It's not to think that we could ever get rid of something like this, but more of what can we do to sort of prepare ourselves for when the cycle goes down, because it always will. It always will.
Mr. Boagman, on the other hand, has every right to be worried, but he maintains hope.
Yeah, I am definitely hopeful. And I think in the long run, people will eventually realize that schools need to be maintained. They need to be upgraded periodically. I mean, I'm teaching English in a cooking room. This isn't the ideal place to teach English.
Whether in a cooking room or in a normal classroom, Mr. Boagman continues to teach. And we should continue to do what we need to do. Like Miss Benton says, as long as we stay smart and prepared, the cycle will take care of itself.